Hello, I'm Laura Knights, CEO of Knights Consulting, creator of BlackWomanLeading.com, and the host of Black Woman Leading, the podcast. This podcast amplifies the needs and experiences of Black women leaders in the workplace with a holistic focus on three core areas: leadership development, mental wellness, and relationship management. Our ultimate aim is to help Black women learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity. Hey there, before we jump into the next podcast episode, I want to share two quick announcements with you. We are just weeks away from the 2025 Black Woman Leading Live Conference and Retreat. It's taking place May 27th through the 30th, 2025 in Virginia Beach. Now, this is our third annual event, and if you haven't heard, this event is the premier leadership development conference to help Black women learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity. Now, this is not just an event, it's an experience designed by Black women for Black women. Listen, the Black Woman Leading team, along with our dynamic guest experts that will be there, are going to help you do the hard work and the head work to clarify your career growth strategy, work on refining your leadership skills, and make a plan to tend to your mental wellness and self-care while you are doing all of that. So activities include workshops, panels, wellness breaks, laser coaching, networking, action planning, all of that. Past attendees have shared that this event has been transformative for them and has helped them make critical shifts to take not only their career, but their life to the next level. You need to be in the room, okay? So we have less than 25 seats left until we sell out. So make a plan to get there, talk to your employer, do whatever you got to do and be there with us, okay? You can get all the details and sign up, save your seat at www.bwlretreat.com. And my second announcement for you. Now our full podcast episodes are on YouTube. So you want to see my beautiful face, you want to see the face of our brilliant guests and catch the vibe as we're really having these dynamic conversations. Subscribe to the Black Woman Leading YouTube channel and you can watch the full episodes of the season there. So head on over there and subscribe. So welcome everyone. Today we are talking about healing out loud with Sandria Washington. Hey girl, hey.
Hey.
I am so happy that you are here. Y'all, I'm excited to jump into this topic, which our guest was the inspiration for, of course, but she is I'm calling her guest, but she is no guest. She is part of the Black Woman Leading family. If you have been to any of our Black Woman Leading Live conferences, you have met her as the official MC of our event. And if you have never met her, you need to meet us in May, okay? So you can meet her because she will be ushering us through the experience, as we like to say. But she's no stranger. She's been and done special sessions with our alums and with our current participants, and really just is a kindred to our community and to the work that we do. So excited to have her on the podcast. And we were talking about the conference, and I'm like, you ain't never been on the podcast before. What we doing?
Never.
So we got this together. So we're going to go into that and why we want to talk about this topic a little bit more. But first, let me give you the official, her bio, okay? So Sandria Washington is an author, wellnesspreneur, and co-host of the Black Adoption Podcast. She's also a speaker and media personality with a passion for personal development and collective healing. As the creator and the chief self-exploration officer of She Feels Trips, she empowers Black women to utilize the power of self-discovery and play to come back for yourself, okay? To come back for yourself in their healing journeys through workshops, curated events, online community, and inspiring offline tools and products from her Real G's Move in Alignment brand. And so, as you can see, the collective healing, you hear all our self-discovery healing, you hear all our buzzwords. Interesting fun fact. We go way, 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 way back.
Way back.
At some point, I thought we went to high school together, but we did not. I think we had mutual friends in our college years.
Yes, my
Right.
college
We
roommate
connected.
went to high school, I believe, with you.
Yes.
And so that's how
Because I
we got
remember,
into
I'm
the
like, when
mix.
I was young, I remember, before I was a grown woman, I remember, but it wasn't high school. It was some college years
College,
coming
yep.
back home and connecting and having in Chicago
Yes.
area, having all these interconnected contacts. And then over the years, just kind of watched each other's journey, kept in touch and things of the sort. So super excited that we
Yes.
reconnected back.
Yeah, it's full circle. I
Full
love it.
circle in this season. So this healing out loud topic really came from the inspiration from you and you saying,
Mm-hmm.
I got something that I've been playing around with and
Mm-hmm.
reflecting on. And when you shared it with me, I'm like, oh, this is right on time. So we're going to get into this topic of healing out loud, of course. But first, I have to ask you the question I ask all of our guests. What
Yes.
does the phrase Black woman leading mean to you? And can you share a little about your journey as a Black woman leader, how you came to do this self-discovery work and she field
Whew.
trips? Like, how did you get here?
Child. Okay. Well, I would say I got here by my interpretation of what Black woman leading means to me. So when I think of Black woman leading, I interpret it as Black woman following, right? A Black woman
Mm,
who can intentionally and intuitively follow where her life is being led, where she wants her life to go, right? So if you are following those inklings, those callings, those visions, and maybe you can't
yeah.
even fully articulate it, but you just feel like, you know what, I'm supposed to pursue this right now, or I'm supposed to develop a partnership with this person, or whatever it is, but you are really tuned in and you're listening and you're following and you're
Mm,
being led. And so I think when you live that way, of course you're going to show up in a way that you're leading, but
yeah.
I think that showing up in your power and as a Black woman who leads is because you are so in tune with really just following and being led.
Mm,
And I feel like this has been what's put me on this path. So like when you read my bio and it's like, well, media personality, wellnesspreneur, and you got a podcast and you did this and that. I've done a lot of different things,
yeah.
but I feel like it's all interconnected and it was just me following my path. Like I
Yeah.
can't even say it was an intentional list. Like I've never been that person that had, okay, by the time I'm 25, I want to do this. By the
Yeah.
time I'm 30, I wasn't that person. I wasn't a climb the corporate ladder type of person. I just knew that I was very good at writing. I enjoyed it. When I was in college, I majored in advertising. I thought I was going to have a career like the movie Boomerang. That did not happen. But I just kept following the path in different careers. So I've worked in directory advertising. I've worked in education. I've worked in media, eventually segued into nonprofits for the
Yeah.
last few years. But there's always been this through line of communications, writing, speaking, being creative. Um, and I just continue to follow that. Like there wasn't this blueprint, but it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I know I'm doing the right things because it feels like it's aligned. Like
Yeah.
I'm meeting these people, we're having relationships, these successes are happening. So it's like, okay, I must be on the right path.
Yeah, that really resonates with me too. When I think about my own experience, I have done everything from corporate. I've been a
Mm-hmm.
therapist. I've been, doing this work, organizational behavior work. But the red thread has been really consistent to me of helping people understand and realize their own potential, whether that was
Yes.
teen girls I was counseling,
Mm-hmm.
executives that I'm coaching. So I love the way you kind of conceptualize what your journey is. To somebody from the outside, it could look like, dang, what's she doing now? But
Right.
if you
And
kind
people
of,
say that. They like,
but it's the
what you
core.
gonna be this year?
It's just a different iteration for this season,
Yeah.
but still the core work, right? It's
It's
still
still the core work. And you
the core
evolve,
work.
right?
Yeah.
So it's the core, but the evolution of it. So
Yeah. It's
yeah.
so timely too for the podcast theme this season of like driving the narrative of your career.
Mm-hmm.
When we think of that, to drive anything, you got to have a vision. And so for
Yes.
some people, driving that narrative is going to be the very clear thing, right? By 25, I'm doing this. By
Mm-hmm.
5 years at this company, I'm doing this. Other people driving the narrative is I have some type of purpose,
Yep.
some type of passion. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm going to
Yes.
drive that passion and we'll see kind of where that
Yes.
take us.
That's
I love it.
me.
Yeah.
I'm
You're not
person
the
B.
ladder. The
Right. I'm
ladder. Yeah.
person B. But
I
it's
love
gotten
it.
me this far, so I'm okay
You
with
doing
it.
something. You doing
Yes.
something. So let's this healing out loud. When we were kind of
Mm-hmm.
talking, brainstorming, what do we want to talk about on the podcast? And I was asking, what's resonating with you right now? And you shared this kind of, I don't know, framework or perspective you've
Mm-hmm.
been thinking about. You referenced it as your own personal quiet revolution, and that really
Yeah.
piqued some curiosity to me. So tell me about that personal quiet revolution, and what does it mean to heal out loud? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So curiosity is one of my favorite words. So thank
Yeah.
you for using that word.
Okay.
Um, it came from, so I'm a journaler. I've been journaling consistently since 1998. So my freshman
Okay.
year of college. So I have all these journals going all the way back that
That's
many
something to
years.
read, right?
Yes. And so in reading, I would go back and I came across this entry, and I was probably in my 20s at the time. And it was this entry, and I was in so much trepidation about going out to some event. I don't know what it was, but some event by myself. And I was just journaling about how, oh, I'm going to feel weird. I'm going to look weird, and just going on and on and on.
Okay.
And it was crazy because most people who've known me for years, know me as somebody who goes out alone. I've traveled internationally by myself. I will pop up somewhere solo in a minute. Like, that is me. But looking back, I'm like, oh, that wasn't always me. I had to grow into that. I had to push my own comfort zones, and what I've later kind of coined as this phrase, healing out loud. Like, through the years, that's what I was doing. So every time I would force myself to, go to a concert by myself, go to a restaurant and have a nice meal by myself, like, those were micro moments of me healing something out loud. So for me, it was a quiet revolution because, of course, nobody knew that this is what I was doing. Like, there's no announcement like, hey, you saw me eating lunch by myself. I was healing out loud. Like,
Right.
It's a quiet thing because I know what it is, and I know the significance when I do those things. And so that's what I mean when I say, like, it's a quiet revolution, but people are watching you heal out loud all the time, whatever way that you're doing it. And so I've just noticed, in different ways, some bigger than others that we'll probably get into later, but just this idea over time of doing things that challenge myself, get me out my comfort zone, maybe heal some of those traumas from childhood and even adulthood, but doing it publicly, but people don't really know that that's what's happening.
I see. So is it almost like feeling, like you said, either the fear or the hesitance or whatever that is, and kind of doing that thing anyway, almost as
Yeah.
a resistance to that?
a resistance, or it could even be, so right now you have on this beautiful red lipstick. I love it. I love a good red lip. I used to be a person, well, one, when I grew up, you did not wear red lipstick. You did not wear red nail polish.
Yes.
But I had a lot of insecurities around the size of my lips because I was teased, you have big lips. And so I never wanted to draw more attention. I didn't really wear lipstick. But as I got older and as I started trying to push those boundaries and just doing something as simple as, I'm going to wear a red lip. For me, that was healing. It wasn't just, oh, I want to look cute. It was me really bucking up against the things that I was told and those insecurities. And now you can't keep me at a red lip. I don't have it on right now because I was trying to do a little nude, natural look. You see it. But it's like I had to work through that. And so something as simple as that can be healing.
Yeah. And it's, you talk, I feel like I've seen it both sides, and I can think of really clear examples of this, right? People that I know. There's this one side of you living, because what's synonymous with your brand for me, of knowing you like on the personal side and being your Facebook friend, is it seems like there's a sense of adventure.
Yes.
There's a sense of also like, this is something that I've wanted to do. So I'm going to do it. And what has been, I think, really beautiful, and it's a fine line though, but you've mastered it. What's been really beautiful is like you, and this is probably because you're a journalist and a writer, but you kind of providing the commentary around that experience, not only the highs, and like I was thinking when you're going through your bodybuilding journey, right? This woman is a whole award-winning bodybuilder, right? And following your journey, that you weren't just showing us when you got fine at the end and competed. You were showing us like, I'm tired of eating this chicken breast every day. Yes. You were showing that, but it's a fine line, because I've also seen people do it and it feels attention seeking. It feels, look at me. And that's never the sense. And even if you look at people commenting under, girl, you giving me courage. Girl, this is inspiring. Girl, you can do it. It is, people are finding, it's some authenticity there that I think,
and I was
what is that piece? Yeah.
I was going to say authenticity, because I feel like now, especially social media, the way it is now, being vulnerable or transparent is almost like a cheat code, or it's something that people are doing like, oh, let me overshare because that's going to bring engagement and make me seem relatable.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm literally just living my life, and I believe it's important for people to have context.
Yeah.
Because it would be easy to show a highlight reel, months into my bodybuilding journey of like, okay, now I got the muscles and I got the 6-pack abs, and you haven't seen any of the work. And I feel like people need context, because it can become glamorized when you just show the highlight reel. And it's like, no, I had to go
to work
from point
A
to point Z, and all this stuff that was in between. And of course, everybody didn't see everything, but I feel like I have to show something just for understanding. And I think when it's authentic and it's genuine like that, then of course people are going to relate and they're going to be inspired, because it's not fake. It's just like, I'm just trying to show you a picture, a whole picture, and not just the really, really good parts.
Yeah. And there's this, you see people. I saw something today when I was taking a little break and just kind of doing a little death scroll for a minute.
Not the death scroll.
When you like, I need something that doesn't take much time. Let me scroll. But it was somebody sharing, it was a really difficult period in their life, and kind of sharing the journey. They have a loved one that's going through a terminal illness, and how they're going through this journey with them and all this kind of stuff. And so you see people underneath like, why show that person like that? And clearly the person, although they're sick, they're lucid. So they've given consent for this, right? And so you see people underneath like, why show all of this or whatever? And then you see other people like, well, you need to show, because people need to know that there's hope. And then there's somebody else under like, who says you have to be the one to give the hope? And it's this whole kind of thing. Yeah, it's this whole thing. So we know that there's, particularly for us as Black folks, there's a cultural stigma, right, around keeping our business to ourselves, right?
Yes.
Keep what's in this house stays in this house, right? And we know that some of that is protective, but some of that has been destructive. Been a whole bunch of abuse and toxic behaviors happening because to keep the business to yourself.
Passed down generationally,
yeah. So what's your take as a person who has been very public in not only sharing the highlights, but also some of the down moments? How do you reconcile that tension for yourself, and where do boundaries come in? Like, what's your take on it?
I think for me, I want justice for myself. And I'll pull the example that comes top of mind. So you mentioned in the bio, I co-host this podcast, the Black Adoption Podcast.
Yes.
And that's not anything that was on my career bingo card. Like, you couldn't have told me that I would have a podcast about Black adoption. A podcast, yes, because that's in my wheelhouse, but Black adoption, not so much. But basically the short story is that in 2018, at the age of 38, I found out that I was adopted. I was adopted as an infant, and it was a secret in my family. Both of my parents are deceased. My parents who raised me were already deceased by the time I found out. And there was no intention of me being told. Like, that was just the way that it was. But of course, you know, technology has changed since the 80s, and you have ancestry tests, and you've got Facebook and all the things. And so, you know, family secrets like that eventually will come to the light. And so when that information came to me, I did something that was almost atypical. I'm an introverted person. I can be a private person. But once I had that information, I almost immediately wanted to share. Like, I felt like I had to talk about it because I wasn't going to be the next person to keep that secret. I had been silenced essentially for 38 years. And so I wasn't going to continue that. So when I say justice for myself, it's like, I have to speak up. I have to advocate, not only for me, but for my family, for other people who are in a similar situation as me. So eventually, as I shared and eventually started working with my friend Samantha, and we started the podcast, we met people all over the country who have adoption stories. And some of them found out later in life, the same way I did. And now we're able to have community. And so as I'm going through that journey and trying to heal and grieve in real time, it's allowed me to connect with so many people and inspire them to maybe talk about their story, you know, come on a podcast. Some of our guests, that was their first time publicly talking about their adoption experience, but they felt seen, they felt safe enough to do it. And it's like, I wouldn't change what happened, because it's like, I understand that this is for a bigger purpose. Like, the way that it worked out was the way that it was supposed to work out. And so this idea of just, you know, us being able to talk about things out loud and not hold these things in our families, it's life-saving. You know, I'm so thankful that I had the, people call it courage, and I guess it is courage to talk about it. But it's like, that's how you start to break down those generational curses. It's like, it stops with me. So yes, all of this happened before me, but now I can do something different in my family.
And what I'm hearing, the undercurrent of this healing out loud, which is, you know, taking the thing that could have been the challenge, well, not could have been, was the challenge, or could have been the setback, but taking that and speaking truth about it. moving forward despite,
Yes.
whatever heaviness is attached to it. But I also hear outside of like this healing and like you said, justice for yourself, there's this element of service to it too, right? And in what ways might me getting this freedom or me moving forward through this obstacle also release somebody else to do the same? Yeah.
And I've seen that to be true. I've definitely
Yeah.
seen that to be true. And it's crazy when I think about it. Like, this is literally the 7-year anniversary of me finding out. And so 7 and the number of completion. And it's just like, wow, who would have thought, this would be the story, this would be the path. And not only set myself free, but set other people free as well.
Yeah. I remember, and of course, I've been your Facebook friend all the time. So seeing that journey, and I will never forget when you did that post about meeting one of your sisters for the first time.
Yes.
And y'all look like twins.
Yes.
Like at the airport, I was gasping, looking at that, crying and carrying on, gasping.
I was just looking at pictures from that day, this past week, and it's crazy. But it's things like that. It's like, this was a secret. Imagine if I still didn't know. I wouldn't have met her. I wouldn't have met her children, her mom who raised her. I wouldn't have met my other sisters. I wouldn't have done a podcast and traveled and had speaking and it's like there's a ministry that was attached to this, and it's
from you kind of pushing through and I'm gonna live anyway. I'm gonna face this thing and explore, because on the other side, we've seen these shows where people reach out to connect with their family. Their family don't want nothing to do with them. So you didn't know.
Happens. Yeah,
you don't know if the rejection is there, but you had to do this thing for you and figure out that path for you. Oh, yes. I remember that post, and I'm like, I'm crying and carrying on like I'm part of the family. But
look, you are,
girl, like crying, like shit. Y'all look like twins, which is what blew me. Like literally, y'all could be twins.
It's
like crazy. So, but I'm sure when we think about where's the boundary line, and I think with boundaries, I say it all the time. You get to choose where the boundary line is, because I'm sure even though there's things you shared with the public, I'm sure there was a lot of things along that healing journey you did not share, right?
Definitely a lot, because you can't show it, and you shouldn't, right? For me, I like to process things privately first, and then, as I get comfortable, as I get more understanding, then I can share a little bit more. So everything doesn't need to be for public consumption or for public consumption right away. Like, I think there's value in working through things. But on the other hand, I think there's also value in, let people see some of the things happening in real time, So it's trying to find that balance and the boundaries, which I think you just have to define for yourself and think about your motivations. Like, why am I sharing this? Why am I sharing it to this degree? And think about your own motivations.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, like I said, you get to choose, and, the boundary line is different for different people. But I think also back to your original point when you were talking about what it means to be a Black woman leading and kind of knowing yourself, right? Paying attention to yourself. Because when you start to feel resentment or anger or sadness in this sharing, that's often your body and your brain's signal to say, baby, the boundary line done went too far. You might need to pull that back.
And other people can notice that. So sometimes you'll see somebody make a post and then people will start commenting like, girl, you need to delete that. You need to take this offline. So when you've crossed that boundary, even other people can see it.
Yeah, because you operating out of a space that's that's a harmful space or a destructive space rather than a reflective, healing space. Oh, this is good. This is good. Okay. My questions just went away, so I got to kick my butt. I'm like, what else did I want to say? Okay.
What did I want to say?
So, okay, so we've talked a little bit about this healing out loud and a little bit of your personal journey. What would you say would be some of the benefits of taking this approach for Black women, right, in particular? And do you see potential consequences? I think that boundary line, right, getting blurred could be a consequence we've talked about, but just from your kind of vantage point of really kind of embodying this approach in your own life.
Mm-hmm. So as Black women, that adds another layer because, historically we have all these different labels on us. And so sometimes it may not feel to our benefit to be as open or as vulnerable or transparent. And we have to appear as strong and we have to appear as in control and all of these things because there are others, who, if they see even just a tiny crack in who we are, I mean, they are going to take full advantage of it. So on one hand, we have that working against us, but there is something beautiful, especially for us as Black women, when we can share and heal out loud because we don't typically have spaces to do that. I'm thinking about, so right now I'm going through my perimenopause journey, right? And
don't even get me started.
I will talk about it on Facebook. And of course, Facebook is mixed company. It's men, it's women. I don't care. I'm like, hey, who's taking some herbs? Who has remedies? Like, let's start to talk about these things because my mother didn't talk about it. My grandmother didn't talk about it. My aunties weren't talking about it, not with us or not that we overheard. And so it's like, why am I suffering in silence? Even if my sisters don't have the answers, at least we can be in community looking confused,
looking confused and
trying to understand, Like I love the work that Halle Berry is doing right now because she is really just doubling down and advocating. And it's like, so refreshing. And so that's the power when Black women speak up and we start to talk about those things that, oh, you're not supposed to talk about that, or you're just suffering with it in silence. Like, no, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the fibroids. Let's talk about...
Because everybody dealing with it, so why are we being secret about it?
So why are we being secretive about it? Because it halts our own healing. I am just a fan of let's get some things out in the open because we can help each other.
And there's what's that famous quote? I don't know where it's from, but I've heard it so many times over my life. You're only as sick as your secret.
Listen.
You're only as sick as your secret. Because I just think about now you're seeing so much about, and it may depend on kind of what's your algorithm, right, and where you are, but you're seeing so much about perimenopause, and I'm like, I did not hear about this before.
Not at all.
And I'm like, were people not educated and everybody thought they was going crazy? Because you heard a lot about menopause. You heard a lot about that, hot flashes and all that kind of stuff. But that pre thing, is a real thing.
And it gets real fast.
It's a real thing. Oh my God.
It's real.
Like, was people just suffering in silence? Everybody thought they was crazy?
And thought they were going crazy, or just, this is what happens when you get old. And it's like, no. It doesn't have to be that way. So right now, I'm doing the bodybuilding thing, and there's women on my team who are in their 60s and they are beautiful. They are strong. They doing pull-ups, push-ups.
Pull-ups. What?
Pull-up. Listen, baby, we call them the diamonds. The diamonds shut all of us down. They look good, right? But it redefines what aging looks like, what it could feel like. And it's like, when we don't talk, when we don't share, when we don't heal out loud, when we don't live out loud, we don't get to see that. And it's like, I want to see Black women in their 60s, 70s, 80s looking good, because now that gives me a compass. It gives me an idea of, I can do that. I don't have to be walking around with my back hurting or can't, lift my own body weight. It's like, no.
Yeah.
So,
and assume that's just the way it is.
And that's just the way it is.
Yeah. So we've already started to talk about a little bit some of the benefits of, not necessarily suffering in silence is this community piece. And we talk a lot about the power of community and community care. I mean, I think about even what you've done with your podcast and coming out and sharing that story. I mean, I've seen you and your co-host speaking at places or hosting a dinner for other folks who found out they were adopted and all of this. That can't occur if I don't give voice to it, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So can you share a little bit more about the role community or community care has really played out in your journey as you've been healing out loud?
Community care has been everything. So going back to the adoption story, when I found out, the first people that I reached out to were my girlfriends.
Yeah.
It wasn't my family. It was my girlfriends. And I remember texting them, and one of them was like, you know what, we need to meet for dinner. And they literally that day, that night, which is hard. Everybody is busy. Some of them have children and spouses. They made time that night after getting that text to meet me for dinner and just let me tell what happened, how I found out, and just were able to hold that space for me. Because in that moment, I mean, I'm shocked, I'm confused,
angry,
all these things. I'm angry. And they were able to just come in right in that moment and just provide that care. And I've just noticed that continue over the years, creating community with other people who are in this adoption conversation. That could be parents. That could be, people who are doing kinship care. So maybe it's an aunt that's taking care of her nephew. Just so many people across the country. And it's like, that community didn't exist for us as Black people in 2018 when I found out. There weren't really podcasts that spoke to the Black adoption experience. Which is why Samantha and I, one of the reasons why we created our podcast, because there was a lot of information for Black people who were adopted into white families, but not a lot of information about Black people who were adopted into Black families. And, it's that whole stigma piece, that shame, what happens in the house stays in the house, or we don't necessarily look at adoption in the same way as other groups. So it's like, once we consider you family, you're family. And we don't need to talk about the specifics of it. But not talking about the specifics can be detrimental. So creating community has just been everything, particularly when it comes to this topic.
And I think, like you talk about the stigma and the isolation, a lot of that, of course, is born out of shame and out of, maybe the situation was jacked up and how it led us to this. So somehow, like, us not sharing that is going to help, but it's happened. And I can think of two people that I know that found out. They were actually young women I was mentoring. So they found out in their teen years, which you still trying to figure out who you
figure
are.
out yourself, and
just the devastation or like, who am I then? And who are my people? And it was, people thought that by then not really talking about it, you were saving them from something. But what it really did is allow a narrative, a harmful narrative in a lot of ways to build up and something was wrong with me, right? Because they didn't even have the maturity to process fully, right? And so I think that community care is so powerful. We talk about that as one of our critical pillars in Black Woman Leading, and that having folks that can be mirrors for you, who can stand in the gap for your, I think a lot of things, sometimes for your healing, they can stand in the gap. I have seen folks resistant to doing the work to get the healing, but they got somebody else next to them that's healing. And it's like they on the coattails, baby. They can transition
Sometimes you need
over.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to see that. So that community piece, I'm so happy you've been able to create that for yourself with this situation and for
Yes.
all the other people who
Yes.
have come along too. So let's say, because I definitely want to get to some of our core questions and ask you, but let's say, this is really resonating with someone. Maybe they have a area that they need to heal in, or some fears or challenges they've been holding, and they're ready to heal out loud. I'm ready to
Yeah.
move forward, do this thing, put it, face it, whatever that is.
Yeah.
What would you say, and just thinking about your journey, are some of the
Mm.
initial steps they could take? Because I'm sure there's levels to this, right?
It's levels for
Yeah,
sure.
there's levels to this.
Start simple, like really simple. Think about an area or a thing that maybe you think isn't so much a big deal, like the red lipstick thing, right? Like somebody might say, oh, that's so superficial. But if
Yeah,
you know your history behind it of why maybe you don't do a certain thing, maybe you start with that. If
yeah,
you're a person who if you're in a bigger body and you never wanted to wear form-fitting clothes, you wanted to wear
yeah,
bigger clothes, maybe you start just wearing tailored shirts.
yeah,
Maybe you
yeah,
start to wear pants that fit a little bit tighter. Like dip your toe in whatever the thing is. If it's hair, because I used to have a thing about being seen, and I think I
yeah,
used to hide behind my hair. I cut my hair off,
yeah,
and that's very much healing out loud, especially when I went bald a couple of years ago. It's like you cannot hide behind anything. Like people see your face, they see it
yes,
all. And
yes,
so it's like thinking about those areas where you've been challenged, and is there something that you could do even on a mini level or
yeah,
simple, and just take that and make it fun.
yeah,
If you're afraid to go out by yourself, maybe you make a little lunch date and be like,
yeah,
oh, here's a new cafe. I'm going to go by myself and I'm going to sit by the window and I'm going to order that latte. Like, make it fun. But as you're doing it, you are actually healing something, because then it's just going to become easier. And then
yeah,
eventually that becomes your identity. It becomes you. So now you are the
yeah,
person that can dress a certain way or wear your hair a certain way, and you can be seen and whatever it is, but it's those baby steps that are happening
yeah.
along the way that people don't even recognize, but you recognize the
You
value in it.
recognize it. Yeah. As you're talking, what I'm hearing and thinking about applying this to myself is, what are the things that your behavior is guided by fear? That's what I'm hearing. So what are the things
Yeah.
that your behavior is by? I don't want to be seen because fear of
Yeah.
this. I don't want to do this because of fear of this.
Yeah.
And I personally try to live my life by, I can make a lot of decisions, but I will not let fear be the root cause of the
Mm.
decision. That's one of the commitments I made to myself. If the reason I'm not doing it is because I'm scared of it, I've got to
Mm.
challenge that. If I'm not
That's
doing it because it's
good.
not the right timing, or I can't
Right.
afford it, or it's
That's
gonna
different.
cause some.
Yeah.
But if I'm not doing it because I'm scared,
Mm-hmm.
that's usually, or I'm a fearful that something is going to happen. That's usually something that I really challenge myself on. And as you were
Mm-hmm.
talking, the fear of being seen as whatever the red lipstick mean, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the red fingernails mean, right?
Yeah.
I think about my mom, who talks about, who red is her favorite color, but I remember her
Mm.
saying, she used to say red was for floozies. That's an
Yeah.
old school word of
Floozy.
floozy. Right? These words like this. So if the
Yeah.
fear is I'm going to be seen in a
Seen
certain
as a
way,
floozy.
but
Yeah.
you ain't no floozy. So,
Right. Wear
so
the lipstick. But we
hello.
have to work through that,
Yeah,
especially as Black women, because that's the message we grew up
yeah,
with. So it's like we
yeah,
got to work through it.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, we using these small examples, of course, but
Right.
think about what that thing is for you,
For
and
you. Yeah.
what is a low risk step you can take,
Right.
right? How can you activate your community and support you around that
Yes. Low
thing?
risk, high reward. Low
Low
risk, high
risk, high
reward.
reward. I love it. I love it. Oh, it's so much to unpack here, but I can't keep you all night. And I also want to ask you a few of our core season questions, but
Yes.
any final thoughts on just this healing out loud topic that you want to leave with the listeners?
That is not just for you. Like, I think you do the things and you heal the things that you're trying to work on. Do that for you.
Yeah.
I'm a person, I'm very self-serving, very much, for myself.
Yeah.
But in that, I know that there's the potential of inspiring somebody else or encouraging somebody else just because of what they seen me do. So it's not that I'm leading with, oh, I want to empower somebody else, inspire somebody. It's like, no, I'm doing this for me first, but the fruit of it can inspire or encourage somebody else. So I would just say be unapologetically self-serving. And those little things really do add up to big things and big changes and changes that can help you be the Black woman leading that you want to be. So if you want to be the person that shows up and you're not afraid of being seen and you're not afraid to go places by yourself, or, you want to build community and maybe you've been too shy in the past, as you start to take those micro steps, you're going to grow into that vision of yourself. So be, yes, unapologetically self-serving and start small risk, high reward.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So the season 7 thing, which I referenced earlier, is driving the narrative of your career. And it's really about how do you kind of set and pursue a vision that you have for yourself professionally, and advocate for yourself along the way to achieve that vision, access the resources that you need to achieve that vision. So, on that theme, one of the questions that I have for you as a Black woman leading, of course, is can you share a professional vision that you set for yourself and that you've been able to pursue? And what helped you to realize that?
Ooh, professional vision. So I remember my first job right out of college. I had an internship my senior year, and so they were offering me a full-time role at the same company. And so I'm having this interview with my manager, and she asked, like, where did I see myself in 5 years or 10 years, whatever. And I told her, I see the world as my office.
Okay.
And eventually that morphed into, I want to be paid for being me. Like, I want my career to be me being me. Like, I never had this aspiration of, C-suite title or whatever. How do I be paid for being me? And over the years, that's happened a little bit more. But last year, one of the things that, one of my goals was to make all of my traveling work related. So if I'm traveling somewhere, it is because I am working. I am being paid to essentially be me. And last year, all of my travel, except for one trip, I went to Tuskegee's homecoming to support my homegirl. But outside of that, I had like 3 or 4 other trips that were all work related. And to me, that felt very close to, yes, this is the vision. This is what I want to do. Like, I am being paid to speak and, to inspire, to encourage. And it's like, yes, that's the vision. So it's like, I got to live inside of it for a little moment.
Can you share about a time when you had to advocate for yourself in a professional setting? And what was that? And how were you able to kind of push through that?
Oh, a time I had to advocate for myself. Fortunately, I haven't gotten into too many work conflicts, thankfully. But I would say that I advocated for the vision that I had. So many jobs ago, I was working for a large corporation. And when I started that job, I knew that job was just a bridge. And my mindset at the time was get in to get out. So get in, save money, add to my 401k, pay off debt, and then get to a place where I can leave on my own terms. And so after 3 years, I put in my resignation, and I remember my coworkers were just like, "What? So do you have another job lined up? What are you going to do next?" And I was like, "No, I I don't have another job lined up. I'm going to finish my yoga certification, because at the time I was in my yoga teacher training, and that was the plan. That's all I knew at that point. I knew that I had paid off debt, paid off student loans, built up my 401k, built up my savings, and I didn't want to be there no more. And
that was enough.
Felt comfortable, and that was enough. I knew that I would not be homeless and that I would not be hungry for at least, a few months. And that was enough. And I think just having the courage to be able to take a chance like that. I called it my sabbatical. How often do we get to do that? And so I was able to take that time. I want to say it was almost a year, and live life, finish my yoga teacher certification, started teaching yoga, started doing, other types of freelance work. And you don't have to stay in a situation, you can make another situation for yourself. And so that's what I learned from that. Like, I can really trust myself and trust that I will be provided for, and I am smart enough to create opportunities for myself. And God got me, and it worked out.
But you did the prep work too. You did the planning.
Yes.
And it was an intentionality to that as well. Yeah, I love it. Okay, last question. To drive the narrative effectively and to realize the dream, you got to be well. Okay. So what are some ways that you are taking care of yourself these days to be well?
Yes. Well, at this stage of life, it looks a little bit different. I listen to my body more. So there are times during the month where I know I need to slow down. And I take that time now. Like, I'm not always pushing through, because it used to be a lot of, you just got to push through. Now it's like, nope, I'm in the house. I'm going to lay down. I might have a little nap if I can. If I go to the gym, maybe I'm not working out on level 10. Maybe that particular week I'm working out at a 6 or a 5. But it's listening and following the flow of my energy, of my body. I'm more intentional about what I eat now. So following a meal plan, eating out less, cooking more, which has taught me discipline. How do you be more disciplined in how you eat, how you move your body? Being intentional about spending time with my girlfriends. Community is important. And as we get older, I feel like it's gotten harder. Like, now you got to send a calendar invite to people.
Baby,
you got to
do that.
If it's not on the calendar, it's not going to happen. But I think being intentional about that, like, you're important to me. Let's schedule a lunch date. Let's do it. And so just being more intentional about showing up for my friends and nurturing relationships. So not so much trying to build new ones, but like, let me really nurture the ones that I have, because they are important to me. And just, being open, like, I want to be in love and do all these things. So just being open to a different version of myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Oh, this has been so good. I could talk to you all
Yes,
day.
thank you for
Yeah,
yes.
it's always a vibe, honey. It's always a vibe. I can't wait till we get to the conference and retreat so we can
I am
connect as
excited to
well.
conference and retreat. Yes.
Yes, it's coming. So, how can people connect with you? Is there anything exciting you got going on you want to share? Yeah. How can people
Oh,
connect with you?
yes. So I'm easy to find on social media. You can connect with me on Instagram at Sandria Washington, my government name. You can follow the podcast at Black to the Beginning _ and connect with me that way as well. Of course, listen to the podcast. It's some amazing, phenomenal
Yeah.
stories. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, all of the major places. And then just, I guess, keep me lifted in prayer. I'm trying
Yeah.
some new things this year, that evolution. I want to make a documentary, and
Yay.
that is something new for me. That is outside my comfort zone a little bit. But I know I can do it, and I know it
Yeah.
can happen. So yeah, just keep me encouraged, follow the journey on my social media, and yeah, let's
I
stay
love it.
connected.
I love it. I love it. And we'll put all the links in our show notes. This has been
Yes.
wonderful today. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your story, a part of your story at least. Really good stuff. So if you all enjoyed this, if this was useful to you, share this with your network, right? Help us to amplify this work that we're doing. We are at Black Woman Leading, and woman is singular, at Black Woman Leading on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can find us. You can also visit our website at blackwomanleading.com. You can connect with me personally at Laura E. Knights. I am on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook. And then if you want to learn about kind of some of the corporate work we do in organizations around leadership development, you can check out our corporate site at knightsconsultinggroup.com. We love to connect with you in any of these ways. And until next time, be well.